She never expected the slap meant to break her, would wake up the power she didn't know she carried. Fire. If you want more stories that hit harder than karma itself, make sure to follow and subscribe so you never miss the next twist. Collision Books. The slap cracked across the courtyard like thunder, silencing 200 students mid-laugh, mid-gasp, mid-sinister grin as Mia staggered but refused to fall, her cheek burning, her vision dizzy, and her heart pounding like a trapped bird. Yet something inside her, something long crushed by years of bullying, poverty, and invisibility, snapped awake in that very moment, as if that single strike had unlocked every dormant ember of courage she'd been too afraid to claim. And the slap wasn't from just anyone but from Raina Choi, the school's golden heiress and self-appointed queen bee, who had spent 3 years tearing Mia apart for existing, and now found her intimidation failing for the first time as Mia slowly lifted her head, eyes clear, steady, and terrifyingly calm, a calm that made the crowd shift nervously because they sensed something shifting in the air, something dangerous, something revolutionary. Mia tasted blood on her lip but didn't wipe it, didn't flinch, didn't bow, and suddenly the courtyard felt too small for the power swirling around her as Raina hissed that Mia should know her place, and never dare speak to a certain transfer student again. Ji-hoon, the boy whose quiet smiles had been the first light Mia had seen in years, the boy whose gentle help with her dropped books had turned into friendship, the boy who now stared wide-eyed from across the courtyard as if the truth he had long forgotten was clawing its way back into memory, because Ji-hoon wasn't just any transfer student but the hidden heir of Korea's Titan Group, the secret son of a CEO whose empire controlled half the city, and Mia, though she didn't know yet, was the girl he'd once promised to marry at age 8, a promise sealed with muddy hands and a dandelion ring before fate tore them apart. But the crowd didn't know any of that, they only saw Mia, the poor girl, the invisible girl, the girl they had trampled for sport, daring to stare back at Raina with steady fire, and before Raina could strike her again, Mia grabbed her wrist midair, shocking everyone because no one, ever, had dared touch Raina, and in a voice calm enough to frighten the bullies, Mia said that if Raina ever laid hands on her again, she would not stay silent, because she was done hiding, done apologizing for existing, done letting cruelty define her, her voice carrying across the courtyard like a quiet earthquake as students whispered, unsure, unsettled, because they had never seen strength in Mia before but now couldn't look away. Raina sputtered, furious, humiliated, demanding teachers punish Mia, but the entire courtyard watched as the principal walked out, summoned by the commotion, only to freeze when Ji-hoon stepped forward, placing himself between Mia and Raina, announcing with cold authority that he had seen everything and would personally report Raina for assault, and the collective gasp was loud enough to shake the windows because no one challenged Raina, let alone someone she wanted to impress, and Raina turned pale as Ji-hoon added that Titan Group's legal division would also be notified because he, the CEO's only son, would not tolerate violence toward any student, especially Mia. Chaos rippled, students stunned, Raina shaking, teachers scrambling, but Ji-hoon's focus was locked solely on Mia, his voice softening as he asked if she was all right, and Mia's heart trembled because something in his eyes felt uncannily familiar, a feeling she couldn't place yet, but before she could answer, Raina's friends started whisper screaming that Mia only protected herself because she was pretending to be the CEO's fake wife, a ridiculous rumor that had stirred after a forged marriage registration photo went viral online showing Mia beside a blurred-faced CEO, a photo Raina herself had arranged to humiliate Mia, never expecting the lie to spiral. Now everyone stared, whispering, some laughing, some curious, and Mia shook her head, insisting it was fake, but the rumor now had a life of its own, spreading like wildfire until even Ji-hoon's father, the actual CEO, saw it and mistook Mia for Ji-hoon's secret partner, prompting him to summon them both to headquarters the next day, setting off a chain of events Mia couldn't escape. She was escorted to the Titan main tower, trembling but determined not to let fear consume her again, and the CEO, stern but strangely warm-eyed, asked if she and Ji-hoon wanted to register their marriage formally, believing the two were in a secret relationship and knowing it would protect Ji-hoon from corporate rivals, and Mia, stunned, tried to explain the truth, but the CEO misunderstood her panic as shyness and declared the registration would proceed unless Ji-hoon objected, but Ji-hoon didn't, because as he looked at Mia, flashes of childhood returned, her laughter by the river, the promise ring of dandelions, the vow he made to return for her, and suddenly he realized the girl he had searched for, the girl he thought he lost forever, was standing right before him and the universe must have decided it was time for their paths to collide again. Mia panicked, insisting she wasn't qualified to be anyone's wife, fake or not, but the CEO gently explained that all she needed was strength, sincerity, and loyalty, qualities he had seen from her that very day when she stood up against injustice. And while Mia was still protesting, a new storm erupted. Reina leaked a new edited photo online claiming Mia seduced the CEO for money, and the internet combusted. But instead of letting Mia face the storm alone, Ji-hoon stepped before cameras during a live broadcast and declared Mia was under his protection, a statement that shattered the internet and triggered an avalanche of newfound fear in those who had tormented her. Back at school, Reina tried to rally supporters, but everyone had seen Ji-hoon defend Mia publicly, and the tide shifted. Bullies backed away, teachers apologized, and students whispered that maybe Mia had been someone important all along, and Mia, though overwhelmed, refused to let her identity be shaped by rumors or power she never asked for. She confronted Reina privately, not with revenge but with truth, saying that people only bully others when their own hearts are empty, and she hoped Reina would one day find enough self-worth to stop hurting others, a shocking mercy that broke Reina's facade because for the first time she faced someone she couldn't intimidate or destroy. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon confessed the truth to Mia, that he remembered her, that he'd been searching for her, that the fake marriage rumor didn't matter because he wanted the real thing one day. But Mia, though her heart trembled with old, buried warmth, said she needed time to rebuild herself first, not as a rumor, not as a victim, but as a woman strong enough to choose her own life. Ji-hoon respected her and vowed to wait, and as the school slowly shifted into a place where Mia wasn't prey but a force of quiet resilience, the world that once ridiculed her now watched with awe as she rose, transforming humiliation into power, loneliness into strength, and a slap meant to break her into the very spark that changed everything, not because she found a CEO, or a childhood sweetheart, or unexpected protection, but because she finally found herself. The world had barely settled from the chaos of Mia's sudden rise when a new storm began brewing quietly, the kind that didn't shout but slithered, weaving itself through boardrooms, school hallways, and the dark corners of envy where broken people plotted ruin beneath polite smiles. Because while Mia tried to return to a normal life, studying, avoiding gossip, and pretending she wasn't now linked to Korea's most powerful heir, the universe refused to let her hide anymore, especially when Ji-hoon started showing up everywhere, determined yet gentle, walking her to class, eating lunch with her, never caring about the stares, the murmurs, the jealous gasps, his presence radiating such calm protection that even the bravest bullies stepped aside. But his fame stirred a new wave of attention from rival families who feared that the girl rumored to be his fake wife might actually become his real one, disrupting their plans for arranged alliances, and soon threats began circulating, not loud threats, but quiet, poisonous whispers that someone intended to expose Mia, ruin her reputation, and force Ji-hoon back into the gilded cage of corporate obligation. Meanwhile Reina, suspended and disgraced, returned with a broken pride and a bruised ego, yet surprisingly humbled, no longer surrounded by followers, and when she confronted Mia again, it wasn't with cruelty but shaky guilt, apologizing for everything, saying she had been pushed by her own mother, a ruthless businesswoman determined to secure Ji-hoon for their family empire, because Reina was raised to see love as a transaction and people as tools, and Mia, shocked by the vulnerability, forgave her, which only confused Reina more because she had never been forgiven for anything in her life. But forgiveness didn't stop the real danger, and that danger arrived one night in the form of a glossy black limousine that cornered Mia outside her part-time cafe job, its tinted window rolling down to reveal Mrs. Choi, Reina's mother, whose smile was colder than winter steel as she offered Mia an envelope containing a contract, disappear from Ji-hoon's life forever, and she would be paid enough to lift her family from poverty permanently, her sick father's treatments covered, her future secured. But Mia, her voice trembling but firm, rejected it, saying she would never trade her dignity for money again, not after fighting so hard to reclaim it. Yet Mrs. Choi wasn't a woman who accepted refusal, and she orchestrated a brutal smear campaign overnight, edited photos, fabricated messages, and anonymous accusations flooding social media, painting Mia as a manipulative gold digger who trapped Ji-hoon for power. And the internet, hungry for scandal, exploded like wildfire, turning Mia's life into a battlefield again as reporters stalked her school, drones hovered outside her rooftop apartment, classmates filmed her tearful silence, and even teachers grew hesitant to defend her, some whispering that perhaps the rumors were true. But the greatest blow came when her father, already weak, saw the fake scandals and begged Mia to let go of Ji-hoon, fearing she would drown in a war she didn't deserve. And torn between love and survival, Mia made the hardest decision of her life. She sent Ji-hoon a cold, forced message telling him she wanted nothing more to do with him, that the fake marriage rumor had gone too far, that she didn't want to be associated with his world anymore, her fingers trembling as she typed lies under the weight of heartbreak. and Ji-hoon, blindsided and devastated, rushed to her home only for her to refuse to come out, listening silently as he knocked, pleaded, called her name with a voice cracking at the edges, unaware she was sobbing against the locked door, her heart fracturing with each word she forced herself not to answer. The next week was agony, paparazzi stalking her, hate comments flooding every corner of the internet, classmates avoiding her not out of cruelty but out of fear of becoming targets themselves, and Mia almost crumbled until one morning, the sky dark with rain, Reina burst into Mia's classroom pale and panting, saying her mother had gone too far, that she had discovered a plan to present fake evidence to Titan Group's board to force Ji-hoon into an engagement with a different heiress and permanently remove Mia from the public narrative. Realizing the damage this would do, Mia finally snapped, not with fear but with blazing determination, and for the first time willingly stepped into the world she had been running from, walking straight into Titan headquarters through a storm of cameras, reporters, and guards, no longer the invisible girl but a woman shaped by fire, ready to confront the truth. Upon hearing she was in the building, Ji-hoon abandoned an entire board meeting mid-speech, sprinting through the halls like a man who had been drowning for weeks and just spotted air, and when he reached her, soaked and shaking, he didn't wait for an explanation. He pulled her into a desperate embrace that Mia tried to resist for a second before collapsing into him as if her heart had found its home, and with all eyes on them, Mia confessed everything, the threats, the lies, the pressure, her fear of ruining his life, and Ji-hoon, trembling with fury and love, told her she had never once been a burden, that she had been his anchor since childhood even when he didn't remember it, that he would burn every lie to the ground himself. Together they marched into the boardroom, where Mrs. Choi was presenting her fabricated evidence, only to freeze when Ji-hoon played a security recording that caught her bribing officials to frame Mia, and the board, outraged, shredded the scheme instantly, banning the Choi family from the corporation permanently, Reina watching from the doorway with tears of relief and shame. In the aftermath, Ji-hoon made a declaration that shook the entire country. Mia was not a rumor, not a scandal, not a pawn. She was the woman he chose, and he would protect her even if the world turned upside down. And though Mia wasn't ready for marriage yet, she held his hand tightly, knowing this time she wasn't walking away, and when they stepped outside into the thunderous roar of reporters, Mia faced them with steady eyes, no longer the girl who was slapped before 200 students, but the girl whose courage rebuilt her life, and the girl whose love story with Korea's most powerful heir was only just beginning.